Bum ba-dum bum ba-dum ba-dum bum 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 bum. Okay, let's make things really simple, y'all. I've got some 35mm black and white film. This is back from my days in photography school. Like, I've got dozens of books like this in the basement, just full and full and full of black and white negatives. I'm too lazy to scan them in, however, but they are perfectly protected in archival sleeves. This is a shot with my Calumet 4x5. Yeah, this is a picture of one of my favorite cameras from back in the day. Word! Hail out to film. Pentax 6.7. Now, as it happens, both of these black and white films are the same. Yes, and the same speed. The same silver halide grain. Okay, 35mm 4x5. Huge. Awesome. Wow. Look at that big stuff, though. Okay, so now let's do something here. Let's cut us off one of these small sensors right here. And let's take a look at this big sensor right here. Now first, let's talk about what we are not talking about, because this is what gets people confused. And they are pretty confused. There's been a lot of comments about that. Let's talk about what we're not talking about. What are we not talking about? Now, if both of these images are exactly the same, let's say this is the camera and there's a picture of the camera over here, okay? Now for me to make an 8x10 print, or 20x30 print, this little shot right here needs a lot more enlargement, doesn't it? Yes, indeed. This shot, since it's a 4x5, needs a lot less enlargement to make an 8x10 or a 20x30. Okay? There is no disputing that fact. This sucker is small. Needs more enlargement. This is much bigger. I'm pretty sure that this is a lot bigger than this, y'all. Okay? So, more enlargement for a print or for viewing on a monitor, a display. Okay, so that's what we are not talking about here. When anyone or someone uses two words, and these are exact quotes, in referring to the size of a sensor, the words used exactly, okay, exactly, were ISO and gathering. ISO is directly relational to the grain, the halide, the speed of the film. Both of these are the exact same speed film. Okay. When someone refers to the words gathering and ISO, they are talking about exposure. They're not talking about what I first talked about, enlargement for viewing. God enlarges a lot more than this. Okay, well, that's what we are not talking about. So if you use the words ISO and you use the words gathering, then we are talking about one thing and one thing only: exposure. Exposure is gain in time. Aspects of gain. There are quite a few of them. Okay? We're not talking about post-sensor processing right now. Gain: aperture, pixel pitch, the size of the photo sites, the efficiency of those photo sites, the efficiency in design of the micro lenses that are above those photo sites. And there's a lot of different ones. There's honeycomb-shaped ones. Okay, that is all gain. Gain in time is exposure. Exposure has nothing to do with the size of the sensor. Okay? Now, it was the case back in the day, and I did this, where we could actually use Nikon lenses with a special adapter on my Calumet or another 4x5. So you could use the exact same lens on a 4x5. It was kind of funky, and you did have a little bit of issues of vignetting, but that's vignetting. That is the circle of projection. Okay? Okay, so tell me which one of these needs more exposure versus less exposure. Both of these are the same speed film. Yeah? And yeah. Which one needs more exposure or less? Which one has more noise? Not talking about enlargement for viewing. We are not talking about enlargement. Not talking about that. Which one of these needs more exposure or less exposure? Answer is they're the same. The same. Same exposure, y'all. Same exposure. Meow. Meow and meow. Exact same exposure. Now, a buddy of mine back in photography school, it was really ingenious. What he did is he took some rolls of black and white negatives like this, okay? And he layered them. He taped them. He taped 3 strips on the back of the 4x5 tray for insert in the 4x5. So he had 3 strips, 1, 2, 3. He stuck it in the back of that camera, and he made a contact print that was really interesting. And he also did an enlargement, where basically the entire shot, okay, you could actually see the you see these little holes in the print. It made for a fascinating print. It was actually a beautiful portraiture shot. I was thinking outside of the box. Guess what? The exposure is the same. Okay? If I cut out this little piece of this negative, unexposed, this little piece right here, and I tape it in the back of the 4x5, how does the exposure change? Now here is a really important question. Okay? I am going to cut out, let me do that right now. And I'm going to actually destroy this 4x5 negative. Let me do that. Let me cut out, let's say, a piece that's about the size of a 35 millimeter. Okay? Right about now. There we go. Okay? So, instead of taking this 4x5, let me instead, in my 4x5 camera, stick this in here. Which, now, let me get this out of the way, which now requires different exposure between this in a 4x5 camera or this in a 4x5 camera. Which one has different exposure? Which one has worse noise or better noise? Nope. They're both the same. Same? Same. Exactly the same, girlfriend. Yeah, that's right, girlfriend. Exactly the same. The same. This is the exact same thing as this. No, it's not. This is a huge negative. This is a little bitty negative like this thing right here. Okay. Yeah, that's correct. This doesn't need to be magnified as much. We're not talking about magnification for printing or for viewing. We are talking about the big E. E. E stands for extremely, extremely simplex. E stands for exposure. E stands for, yeah. Exactly the same. Exposure, E. Exposure is the same on this, or this, or this. Exposure is the same. Same. It's undeniable. It's irrefutable. There is not a single camera manufacturer on Earth, anywhere, or lens manufacturer that is going to tell you that you need to change your exposure for a larger sensor versus a smaller sensor. Because it's invalid. It's untrue, it's invalid, it's inaccurate. Okay? So please let us disseminate some information. We are not talking about how much I have to enlarge these negatives for viewing, say, an 8x10 or printing an 8x10 or looking at them on a 27-inch monitor. We're not talking about enlargement. Ultimately, that's incredibly important. Obviously so, but we're not talking about it. We're talking about the big E. Exposure. Exposure. If someone says that, uses the words ISO and uses the word gathering light in reference to a smaller sensor versus a larger sensor, then they are referring to exposure. And exposure has zero connectivity to the size of the negative or the sensor. Zero, zip, zilch, nothing, nada. This 35mm film, if I were to put it in this 4x5 camera, would it get exact same exposure, okay, exact same aperture, the exact same shutter speed, it would be the same. Yep. Undeniable. Look at, I found a print when I was looking through the basement. There's a print I took in St. Augustine. This is still held up after 20 years. I printed that. I'm glad I don't print stuff from film anymore. I've had too much film. I can't handle film anymore. Let's take a look at these pictures. You'll like these pictures. This is me. This is working at A1A Photo in Daytona Beach, Florida, which is where I went to photography school. Southeast Center of Photographic Studies was in Daytona Beach. Look, I had hair. That's me. Look at that. Let me zoom in a little bit. Let's take a look at my ugly butt here. Just for a second. We gotta look at this. You look back on pictures and you go, oh my God, was that me? No. Yeah, Yes, that's me. Now, that was a small camera store that I worked at. I also used to work at Beach Photo and Video, also located on Main Street in Daytona Beach, Florida. I would work there after photography school. And then I just ended up working there. It was a Greek family that owns this, the last name of Paspalakis. They were awesome folks. Oh, look me. Look at that. Look at that fat dude. I was fat back then, even photography school. I still had hair, though. Me holding a camera. This is when the owners were out. I was like, there's nothing to do. This is my workstation. We actually had a studio in the back. You could actually see it back here. There's a room. There's a huge studio in the back that I use. But there's the processor I worked on. Oh my God! Look at that idiot. Let me. People are like, focus, focus, focus. There's me. Look at that pretentious schmuck. What an idiot. There's another picture I took. Another picture of that. Another picture looking outdoors. That's obviously garbage. Yeah, there's my camera. I mean my inside of the store. That was a smaller store that I worked at. So that was a little side trip there. So exposure. Please don't confuse exposure with necessitative enlargement to make a print, or necessitative enlargement for viewing on a monitor. Because larger sensors do not gather more light. Well, sure they do. It's a larger area. It's more total light. Total light has nothing to do with exposure. No sensor on Earth, whether it's digital or film, works off of total light. Because you see this little section that I cut out right here? Okay. This little bit has no more noise than the entire negative. It gets the exact same exposure. This gets the same exposure as this does. That's irrefutable. It's undeniable. Ah! It's undeniable. It's undeniable. Say that word, and I'll send you $1 via PayPal. Say the word undeniable. Undeniable. You think I'm being goofy, but I'm being serious. Why not have a little humor at the same time? Exposure has no connection to sensor size. Well, this is more total area. Look at that. It's huge. Of course it's gathering more light. Yeah, pictures are not made up of total light. They're made up of millions of little points of light. So whether it's this huge negative or sensor or this little negative or sensor, they don't work off of total light. Okay? They don't. They work off of millions and millions and millions of points of light. Total light has no bearing. Sensor size has no bearing on exposure. Every light meter on Earth has no button for letting you select the size of the sensor. Let me repeat that. No light meter on Earth lets you enter a function to tell you the correct exposure regarding sensor size. Thank you for watching. It has been a pleasure of mine. And pardon my crazy humor, but sometimes you gotta drive the point home like... Oh my God. Yeah. Thanks for watching. Catch you later. If you like this video, you could always ship me a pizza as long as it's not laced with arsenic or something like that. Don't send me any pizzas that are going to make me keel over. I love pizza. Catch you later. Bye.